Hello, my name is Lukas Woodman, and I'm doing my final presentation from Economics for Managers, or how should higher education be funded in the future. For my first slide, I'm talking about the issues with the federal and state dealing with cost sharing. Cost sharing is the cost split for higher education. Cost sharing for higher education was different about 20 years ago. Back then, the state paid about 2/3 of the cost of education. Today, it's closer to 50-50. One half by the student and the other by the state. If you take a look at my chart on the PowerPoint, it shows in 2010 the federal revenue per full-time equivalent, or FTE, was able to pass by the states, which is the first time in 20 years. The federal FTE grew by 32%, and the state fell by 37%. On my second slide here, I have another chart that represents the loans that the federal government has given from the 1990s to 2013. One of the largest lenders in the United States is the federal government. In 2013, the government gave out $103 billion, and the states only issued 130 million loans. Taking a look at the chart from the years 1990 and 2013, which are displayed at the bottom here, the federal loans had increased 367% compared to enrollment, which grew 60%. Why is it an issue, or why is it important to change funding for higher education? Because students have slowly been required to pay more to get a better education from year to year. The average tuition has raised in price by a surprising 440% over the past 5 years. More is borrowed. Students and parents have been required to pay loan debts that are at all-time high, with student loan debt sitting at $1.2 trillion collectively. To give a different perspective on the price of tuition, if cars had increased at the same rate, an average new car would cost around $80,000. And it's not as affordable as it used to be, with tuition slowly raising as the years go by, and student loan debt has made it difficult to keep money in the pocket. Education is becoming something that is difficult to afford. There are a numerous amount of people that push the thought aside or have to leave before graduating because of the expense. On the fourth slide here, or the fifth slide, I'm sorry, there are several benefits to higher education for individuals as well as society. One of the great benefits, or pros, is that graduates make more money. A 25-year-old that has a high school diploma will make an average of $35,000 a year. A bachelor's degree makes $65,000, and if you go beyond that, it'll be around $92,000. The benefit to this is to make more money, and the more money that is made from each graduate, they are able to put it back into the economy. My second point is colleges allow students opportunities to help them figure out what they want to do by offering internships, job shadowing, job fairs, and volunteer options. There are at least 80% of college students complete an internship that gives them valuable experience before entering the workforce. For the third pro, back in the 70s, 72% jobs required a high school diploma, but today there are only 34%. During the recession, the jobs grew by 186,000, and according to calculations made by Georgetown University, 63% of the jobs will require a college degree of some sort. Even though there are benefits of higher education, there are also problems that can arise from gaining higher education. One of the largest cons of higher education is the student loan debt. In June 2016, there were 42 million Americans that had $1.3 trillion in student loan debt. The average student loan debt is set around $26,000. A large portion of the graduate students run into the problems with achieving a high credit score or keeping payments on time. A downfall to this keeps people from spending more money on with other wants and needs. The sad thing about higher education is that it does not guarantee success. Back in 2011, 50% of college graduates at age 25 were either unemployed or had a part-time job. There are also one out of three graduates have been reported as working with a job that does not require a degree, like a bartender, janitor, or taxi driver. And as I stated earlier in the presentation, tuition has risen extremely fast over the past few years. From the years 1967 compared to the year of 2017, a 4-year public school annual tuition increased 272.2%. Community colleges increased 173.1%, and private colleges have increased 213.5%. The increase in tuition goes back to student loans and the challenge for graduate students to pay them off. In my research, I have found that there are up to 3 possible fixes that could make higher education more affordable. These are a few among numerous possible solutions that could be applied. The first is higher or free education. I'm sure that everyone has heard about this or thought about it in some way. It's found that just a few years ago it would take around $129 billion to make higher education free. It seems like a large amount, but it is less than what is currently spent. In 2010, the federal government spent $35 billion on Pell Grants, $104 billion on student loans, $10 billion on financial aid, and $80 billion on support for higher education. On top of that, the federal government lost $40 billion of tax revenue that could have gone to higher education. One of the second possibilities is placing tax on things like stocks and bonds that would expect to bring anywhere between $265 billion and $354 billion each year. This is not the first time this kind of tax has been done. The United States had this in place between 1914 and 1966. The United Kingdom also has this kind of tax among other countries. If we allocate the profit from the tax and put it towards higher education, it would give an additional $75 billion to be used. The third and final idea is to restore the education system to where it was born the turn of the millennium. Apparently, California has been used as a test state for the past few years. The goal for them was to pay $6.4 billion to restore education in California. Then the plan would allow a cheaper way for people to get education. The promise is for lower cost and a higher education. And even though there's a solution, there's going to be problems along the way. There will be a short-term and a long-term problems that arise in the change of funding higher education. The long-term change is job replacement. An issue with even focusing on certain higher education can be a risk. There are recent studies to suggest that graduate level jobs may be replaced by machines within the next 10 years. In order to fix that, it would be up to the college and universities to change the role of learning. The process needs to make students more responsive to rapidly changing work environment. One of the obvious short-term problems would be more money to fund education. It would be a challenge to get everything switched over to better funding education. Although there are plans that can be made to make changes to education funding, it may be difficult to put them into play. Overall, it could be long-term or short-term issues depending on how it pans out. Thank you for listening to my topic on funding for higher education in the future. These are my works cited. Let me know if you think any of these would be good ideas or if you have any ideas of your own. Thank you once again.